Hi there, fifth graders. This is your math lesson for today. It's called Volume, EOYT Practice, and it's pretty much all volume questions. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. This first question says, the bottom layer of a rectangular prism is shown. Now, if you don't have this worksheet out, make sure you take it out. If you're at home, this worksheet is attached inside of the Math Google Classroom along with this video. If you're in class, today's substitute teacher should have handed you this worksheet. The bottom layer of a rectangular prism is shown. The rectangular prism has 5 layers. What is the volume of the rectangular prism? Remember, the formula for finding volume is length times width times height. Let's see if we can get all 3 of those numbers from, and it's length times width times height equals volume. Let's see if we can get all 3 of these numbers from the information in this problem. First of all, it says the bottom layer of a rectangular prism is shown. Well, we can get the length and the width from that bottom layer. See, it's 1, 2 by 1, 2, 3. So that's the length and the width. 2 times 3 times, and then it says it's a 5-layer rectangular prism, which means it goes up 5 stories. So that means the height is 5 cubic units. So all we have to do to find the volume is 2 times 3 times 5. And 2 times 3 is 6, so that means 6 is the area of the base. And that makes sense because the other formula for finding volume is base times height, which base times height and length times width times height are really the same thing because length times width is how you find the area of the base. So 2 times 3 is 6, times 5 is the height, 6 times 5 is 30. So the answer is 30, but you can't just write 30, you have to write 30 cubic units. Or you could write cubic units and then put a 3, raise it to the 3rd power. That's the same thing as writing the word cubic. Okay, the next question. What is the volume in cubic units of the rectangular prism? So this one just shows the entire rectangular prism. Now, you might notice instead of telling us like how many feet across it is or how many feet wide it is or how many feet tall it is, instead of giving us units like feet, inches, centimeters, or something like that, the whole thing is just split up into cubic units. It's actually split up into actual cubes. So in order to find the cubic units for the length, width, and height, all we have to do is count. So again, the formula for finding volume is length times width times height equals volume. To find the length, all we have to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the length. It's 4 cubes across from here to here. And then the width, it's 1, 2, 3 cubes across from here to here. So it's 4 times 3 times. Now all we have to do is count the height. Now we have to count this one twice because it's part of the width, but it's also part of the height. And really, when we counted this one, you might notice it's actually the same cube as this one over here, because a cube is made out of 6 square faces. So this is one of the 6 square faces for this cube. This is another of the 6 square faces for that same cube. So when we counted this face, or this cube here and this cube, we were actually counting the same cube. So now we have to count this one for the height, even though we already counted it for the width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 stories high. So it's 4 times 3 times 5. And 4 times 3 is 12. So that's the base. Now base times height. 12 times 5 is 60. And it's 60 cubic units. Volume answers always have to be written in cubic units. So you can either write cubic units, or if it's centimeters, you can write cubic centimeters, or you can write the answer in centimeters and then raise it to the 3rd power. Both of those two things mean the same thing. Number 3, what is the volume of the rectangular prism? So this one, instead of separating it into cubic units, it just gives us the length, the width, and the height. in the units of centimeters. So again, length times width times height equals volume. Here we have the length, it's 10 centimeters, so we write 10 for the length. The width is 3 centimeters, so we write 3 for the width, and the height is 4 centimeters, so we write 4 for the height. And 10 times 3 is 30, so the base, the area of the base is 30 centimeters squared. So it's 30 times 4 now, base times height. And 3 times 4 is 12. We take that 0 from the factor and we drop it into the product. So that's 120 centimeters cubed. Or you could write 120 cubic centimeters. Okay, that was number 3. Now number 4. This one does not tell us the length or the width. Instead, it gives us only 2 numbers. It gives us the height, and it tells us the area of the base. Now, you always know if it's telling you the area of the base if it is squared. So if this said 12 squared or 12 raised to the second power, or if it says the word square, you know that answer is the area of the base. Plus it says area of base equals 12 square centimeters. So it's pretty obvious that that's the base. So instead of using the formula length times width times height equals volume, in this one we're going to use base times height equals volume. But remember, those two formulas are really two different ways of writing the same formula, because the way you find the base is by multiplying the length times the width. But if it doesn't tell you the length and the width, that's probably because it tells you the base instead. And then you just use this simpler formula of base times height. So the base is 12 and the height is 12 too. Okay, so now we have 12 times 12. You know that's 144. So 144 centimeters cubed. That's the answer. I should really be circling the answers on here. If you're following along with this video, make sure you're circling all of the answers. It makes it easier for whoever grades this. Makes it easier for them because they know where your answers are along with all your work, because you kind of separated it from the rest of the work and made it stand out by circling it. That's always a very good idea. Okay, number 5. Which formulas could be used to find the volume of the rectangular prism? It gives us the length, it gives us the width, and it gives us the height. So following length times width times height, we would do 6 times 4 times 2. Now, which of these would give us that same answer? Well, we know 6 times 4 is 24. And this one says 24 times 2. So would that give us the same answer? Yeah. 24 is the base. So this is base times height, which is the same as length times width times height. So we're going to circle that one. That formula would give us the same answer as 6 times 4 times 2. Okay. This one, 6 plus 4 times 2. Would 6 plus 4 times 2 give us the same answer as 6 times 4 times 2? I don't think so. Let's get rid of that one. Volume equals 6 times 4 times 2. That's the same thing we have here. They have the volume equals. Instead of 6 times 4 times 2 equals volume, it says volume equals 6 times 4 times 2. That doesn't change anything. You can write 2 plus 2 equals 4, or you can write 4 equals 2 plus 2. It doesn't matter which side the equal sign is on, so that works too. So we're going to circle that one. And then this one says 6 times 4 times 2. Does the fact that they put the 6 times 4 in parentheses change anything? No, it doesn't at all. You would do the 6 times 4 first anyways, and putting it in parentheses just means you do it first, following the order of operations. Parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, add and subtract. So you would do 6 times 4 first before you times it by 2 anyways, so putting it in parentheses doesn't change anything. 6 times 4 is 24, and then you do 24 times 2. So we really have the same thing that's written here. 6 times 4 is 24 times 2. It means the same thing, so that one would work. This one says 6 plus 4 plus 2. Would 6 plus 4 plus 2 equal the same thing as 6 times 4 times 2? I don't think so. Let's get rid of that one. And then this one just says 6 times 2. Would 6 times 2 equal the same thing as 6 times 4 times 2? No way. No way, Jose. So let's get rid of that one. All right. So all the ones on the left worked, and all the ones on the right didn't work. That's convenient. All right. Next side. Go ahead and turn it. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and turn it over with me, and let's look at number 6. Dale has a cardboard box in his bedroom. The base of the box is 42 inches squared. The height of the box is 6 inches. What is the volume of the box? Now on this one, instead of giving us a picture of the box or of the rectangular prism that we have to find the volume of, it describes it for us. But it describes it, it tells us all the numbers that we need. Remember, the formula for finding volume is length times width times height equals volume. It doesn't tell us the length or the width, but what does it tell us instead? It tells us the base. So instead of using length times width times height, we'll use base times height equals volume. And remember, those two formulas mean the same thing because length times width is how you find the base. So all we have to do is base times height. The base is 42 square inches. The height is 6. So we just have 42 times 6. Okay? So you can set that up on the side like this. Just use the standard algorithm. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus the 1 that we carried is 25. So it's 25 inches cubed. That's the I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's not 25 inches cubed. It's 252 inches cubed. Okay. And it says number 7, what is the volume of the composite figure? Remember, a composite figure is when you have more than one three-dimensional figure put together. And so the way that you find the volume of a composite figure is you find the volume of each three-dimensional figure that it's made of separately, and then once you have those separate volumes, you add them together. So here, let's just find the volume of each one separately. We have to find the volume of this rectangular prism and of this rectangular prism separately, and then we add those two answers together. Let's see if we can find the length, the width, and the height of each one. Sometimes you have to investigate with these composite figures because it doesn't always tell you exactly what the length, width, and height are for each one, because sometimes you can find one of those numbers on the other figure. For instance, for this top one, it gives you the length right here. Really, the length and the width, you might see it as the length or the width. Some people might see that as the width, and they might see this as the length. It doesn't really matter. In fact, it doesn't matter what order you multiply the numbers in at all. So let's call this the length. We'll say 4. It doesn't give us a number for the width, but can we find that number for the width on a parallel congruent line in the other figure? Well, look. This line is parallel and congruent with this line, and that line is parallel and congruent with this line. So that means the length for the width is also 4 times the height from here to here. It says it's 8 meters. So we have 4 times 4. That's 16. That's the base. So that means this right here, the area of this right here, the base, is 16 square meters. Now we have 16 times 8. Let's do that on the side over here using the standard algorithm. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. So that's 128 meters cubed, or 128 cubic meters. Now we need to find the length, width, and height for the other three-dimensional figure. It shows us the length right here. It's 16. So 16 times, it shows us the width right here. It's 4. 16 times 4. And it shows us the height right here. It's 6. So 16 times 4 times 6. So let's do 16 times 4 on the side. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30. So the area of the base, that's this face right here. The area of that base is 304 meters squared times 6. So now we have 304 times 6. Let's do that up here. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. And 6 times 3 is 18. So that's 1,824 meters cubed. So 1,824 is the volume of the bottom rectangular prism. 128 meters cubed is the volume of the top three-dimensional figure. So now what we have to do is add those two volumes together. 8 plus 4 is 12, carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 5. 1 plus 8 is 9, and 1 plus nothing is 1. So that's 1,952 meters cubed. Okay, hopefully this is making sense, guys. Number 8. The volume of the rectangular prism below is 36 cubic inches. What is the height? So this one's a little bit harder. Instead of having us find the volume, it tells us what the volume is. And we're supposed to find the missing height length, or the missing height. So let's start by writing the formula. Length times width times height equals volume. And since it doesn't tell us the length or the width, it instead tells us the base, we should actually use base times height equals volume. Now let's fill in the numbers that we know. We know what the base is. It says it's 4. 4 times. We don't know what the height is. That's what we're trying to find. So we're going to keep h there. And it tells us what the volume is right here, 36. So now we just have 4 times h equals 36. Now a lot of you know that just by looking at it because it's one of your times tables. But let's say that you didn't. You can use fact families. If it's true that 4 times h equals 36, it's also true that h times 4 equals 36. If that's true, it's also true that 36 divided by h equals 4. And if that's true, it's also true that 36 divided by 4 equals h. Since this is the one that has the unknown on the right side of the equal sign, that's the one we use to solve for h. And 36 divided by 4 is 8. So h equals 8. So the missing height is 8 inches. Okay? Hopefully that made sense to you. There will be a question just like that on the independent assignment that you'll do right after this video. How could you find the volume of the composite figure? It doesn't give us any of the numbers. It just says block A and block B. So we don't have to actually find the volume. We just have to check on each one of these that would give us the volume if we did have the numbers. It says add the volume of block A to the volume of block B. If we had the volume of block A and we added it to the volume of block B, would that give us the total volume? Yes, because the way you find the volume of a composite figure is by finding the volume of each three-dimensional figure that it's made of separately and then adding those separate volumes together at the end. And that's basically exactly what that says. Find the volume of block A, find the volume of block B, add those two volumes together. You have the total volume for the entire rectangular prism, so that one would work. Next, multiply the volume of block A by the volume of block B. Would that give us the volume of this entire the composite figure? No, it would give us a way bigger number. If we had the total volume of block A and the total volume of block B, we would add those two numbers together to find the total volume of the entire composite figure. If we multiplied them instead, we'd get way too big of an answer. So that one is not one that we check. Add the area of block A to the area of block B. Now, the reason why that one's wrong is because it says area instead of volume. Remember, area is the total space inside of a two-dimensional figure, inside of a flat figure. Volume is the total amount of space inside of a three-dimensional figure. And this is a three-dimensional figure, so it doesn't make sense to talk about area unless you're talking about the area of the faces or sides that each of the three-dimensional figures is composed of. But that wouldn't give you the volume. Multiply length times width times height for both blocks and then add. Is that the same as saying add the volume of block A to the volume of block B? Yeah, it is. Multiply length, width, and height, that's how you find the volume for both blocks and then add. So that means the same thing as find the volume of both blocks and then add those separate volumes together. So that one would give you the volume for the entire composite figure. I hope this video lesson was helpful for you, and hopefully it prepared you for the independent work assignment that you'll be doing as soon as you finish this video. Make sure you're very well behaved for the sub today, please, and I will catch you next time. In fact, I will see you tomorrow. Signing off.